Okay, welcome to video number 1 on types of signaling molecules. So the first type or group of signaling molecules we're going to talk about are the animal hormones. So these are already written, all the information you need to know about them is already written in that table in your notes. If you want to annotate that at any stage during this, fine, not a problem. But this is the takeaway message that you need to talk about. However, I don't think it's very good to just memorize what's in this table. Let's have a think about what animal hormones are and what examples we might know of them, and that'll help us because the exam questions are not going to ask too much about general animal hormones. They're going to give you one and you're going to have to figure it out from there. So from a body of text, can we figure out what is the group of signaling molecule we're talking about? So animal hormones, what are they? First off, they're chemicals that are produced by your cells. So sometimes they're produced by cells in your adrenal gland on top of your kidneys. So these are these ones over here. Anyone want to guess what molecule might be produced above in your adrenal gland? So the hormone that we produce there is adrenaline. Yeah. So you might have talked about adrenaline. You might feel adrenaline pumping through your system before you do a talk or anything like that. So that's a good example of a hormone that's within the human body. So these chemical messages are produced by these glands, and you can see that the glands are all over the body. Now, they're not connected like a normal system. They require another system to be able to move around the body. They require the bloodstream. So they are released into the blood and they travel around the whole body, but they only act on their specific target cells. So you can see here in this picture down the bottom that you've got this secreting cell. It's secreting this purple hormone here. Now that hormone gets released into your blood vessel, it goes around, it passes by this non-target cell and it doesn't go and bind to it because it doesn't have the appropriate receptor. And then eventually it will find its target cell, it will bind, and it will elicit what we call a cellular response. And that's our lesson after we finish going through the different types of signaling molecules. So let's just have another quick look at some of the glands and think about what kind of hormones might be present. So you might want to pause, have a think, what hormones do we reckon might be released by some of these glands on the right here. So hopefully you've had a think. And now we think about what are some of the hormones that are released by the ovary. Okay, we're going to start with the ovary because we're all girls, and let's think about what's being released there. So hopefully you thought about something like estrogen. Also, there's another one called progesterone. Now, these two hormones are pivotal in the menstrual cycle. Now, if you don't understand your menstrual cycle, girls, please talk to me, talk to any of your HBA teachers. I'd love to go into the detail here, but it's just not on the course. It's so intricate the way that these hormones interact to bring about the shedding of your endometrium, so your uterine lining, every month. It's an intricate thing. There are actually some other hormones that are involved in the menstrual cycle called luteinizing. No. It's been such a time. Luteinizing stimulating hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. LSH? Been a while. So these hormones here are also involved in your menstrual cycle. Okay. The thyroid gland releases a hormone called thyroxine. It has to do with your whole metabolism, so how fast your metabolic processes happen. We've talked about adrenaline. The pancreas, this one's one of my favorites. I've talked about it a lot. Insulin, great example. They use it all the time because it can come in for unit 1, it can come in for unit 4 when we talk about genetically modified things. There's also another hormone in there that's released called glucagon. And the testes, they produce good old testosterone. Yeah, so lots and lots of different hormones, and they're produced in different parts of the body, and they're released in your bloodstream, and they act on different cells. So here's just another example. Here's some more glands for you to look at. So what are some of the things that these hormones do? There is a link in the PowerPoint here for you to watch if you want. You don't need to. It's just a bit of a simple kind of what are hormones. It's, if you look up BBC bite-size hormones, you should come across with it. So hormones in our body help us grow, they help us develop, they help the body function properly. So whether or not we take in sugar into our cells or glucose into our cells, whether or not we release glucose from our cells, they control our mood. I'm sure you've heard about the hormone monsters and how much they control you when you are a teenager. They control sexual function, reproduction. All of these things are controlled by these chemical messengers called hormones. So after it's released, it travels from the gland to its target cells via the bloodstream. So that's pretty much a summary of what hormones do. Now, in particular, you need to think about the fact that they are going to bind to specific receptors. What does this sound like? It sounds an awful lot like an enzyme. It sounds an awful lot like other things. It's all got to do with specific and complementary shapes. Okay, so there is our summary of hormones. Now, just having one quick look. Don't know why I seem to have lost my share here. Sorry guys, it's just going to take a minute to get back. Come on. Just going to stop that. Oh, look, I'm all big. I'm going to get small again in a second. Let's get small again. Da, 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 da. And here, I got really small now. Here are some more examples. Let's make myself a little bit bigger because I need to be bigger. There we go. Here are some of the examples of some of those hormones. We can see that we've got glucocorticoids. These are steroid-based hormones. You do not need to remember whether or not they are steroid or protein-based, but you do need to know what happens if they are one of the two, how they target the cell, and that's next lesson. So if they're steroid-based, I just want you to notice this little link. If they're steroid-based, they are hydrophobic. If they are peptide-based, they're going to be hydrophilic, yeah? Same with the amino acid derived. They're all going to be hydrophilic. So you can see that there's no real rhyme or reason as to why they are what they are, but a lot of hormones are actually proteins. Now I want you to think back to Unit 1, sorry, Area of Study 1, and think about what do we know about proteins? Where could we link this question? This question could also talk to you about protein synthesis. It could also talk to you about the Golgi apparatus and protein export, because all of that has to do with the fact that these hormones are made in cells and they are released by that cell into the bloodstream. How do they get released? By protein export. So they're probably made on a ribosome on the RER. Then they travel through, they get modified a bit, they go into a vesicle, they move over to the Golgi apparatus. After they're at the Golgi apparatus, they get packaged up, modified a bit more, put into another vesicle. That vesicle goes and fuses with the membrane and releases it out into the bloodstream. So can you see how I've linked together those concepts? That's what we need to start to do as we get further on through the course. But for now, I want to give you a little quiz. So it's your job to pause in between each one of these and watch and try and answer your question. So what are hormones? So pause and then we'll come back. Hopefully you wrote down that they are chemical messengers. Sometimes they are proteins. The one thing I'm going to add to this is they could also be steroid-based. My writing today is not great. Where are they produced? Hopefully you wrote down that they're produced in an endocrine gland. So you can have a bit of a pause and think about some examples of these glands and hormones. So give me the gland and then the hormone. So heaps of options. You've got your testes, they produce testosterone. Your ovaries produce estrogen and progesterone. Your adrenal glands are going to produce adrenaline. Your pancreas, insulin, glucagon. Your thyroid gland produces thyroxine. Your pituitary gland, and I didn't even mention this one, produces a hormone called ADH. This has to do with water regulation. And your pineal gland releases a hormone called melatonin. You've probably heard about melatonin as being one of your circadian rhythm hormones. How are they transported around the body? Pause and give it a go. They go into the bloodstream. They bind to receptor molecules on specific, can you see how this word just keeps coming back over and over again? Specific target molecules. Yeah, and that is the end of our video on hormones.